Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad that you're joining us again this week for our shows. We're always glad that there are people like you out there that are interested in the issues that are happening in the cities in Northwest Community Television's viewing area. It's important for good government to have citizens who follow what's going on and then share their ideas back and forth with their mayors and city council people. So we're glad that you're interested. If you haven't watched our show before, each week we're going to have someone on from one of the 9 cities in our viewing area talking about the issues that are happening in that city so you can be more current and up to date about what's happening. And from time to time we'll bring in some other groups that affect all of our cities. Now, tonight we're very happy to welcome Mayor Mark Steffenson from Maple Grove.
Thank you.
We're going to learn about what's happening in Maple Grove and update people on what that is. But you've been on my show many times before, so I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself to our wider audience.
Sure. I'm Mark Steffenson. I've been the mayor of Maple Grove for about 14 years now. I was on the city council for about 4 years before I became the mayor. And so I've been on the council for about 18 years at this point. So I've seen a lot of changes in Maple Grove.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of the development happen, and so far it's been very enjoyable to be involved with all those different processes that involve the city, and certainly hope to continue to see significant growth and development in our city over the next 4 years.
Yeah, you've seen it change probably as much as anybody else in our whole area.
Yeah, we've gone from what would be a farming community to a suburban to almost an urban type of center.
Right. Well, now moving into our current and up-to-date topics, the first thing that I thought we'd talk about is the business and commercial redevelopment that's going on in your city. And I'll have you start out to help people understand, what part does city councils play in building up your business community? What's your role?
Well, I think our role is to try and support them as they come to our community. Okay. Obviously, we as a council make a decision, first of all, where certain types of businesses, and whether it's commercial or industrial, are going to be located throughout the city. We really set forth that sort of map on where people can locate their businesses. But after that, I think our main job is to try and provide support for those businesses as they come to Maple Grove, they're able to be successful.
And what kind of growth is Maple Grove seeing in the industrial or business park?
Well, we continue to see a large amount of growth in our industrial park. We're in the process of seeing a new 350,000 square foot building being completed here shortly, and that will be bringing new businesses to town. We have other significant industrial development happening as well, sort of in that industrial park off of County Road 81 or just south of it. So I think that, we as a city continue to see significant growth in those parks. Last year FedEx opened up their new large package delivery facility there. So there's a lot of things that continue to happen in that industrial park, and as we see 610 develop, we'll see additional industrial development out towards Dayton.
What percentage of your city is still open for development? Nothing has happened, either homes or businesses, roughly.
I think roughly it's about 25%.
Okay.
We have a significant area of land in the downtown Maple Grove area, what we refer to oftentimes as the gravel mine area.
Right.
And then we have a significant amount of land sort of up in the northwest quadrant of our city. That's really sort of, north of Highway 610 and a lot of it west of the freeway out towards Dayton and Corcoran.
So there's a significant amount of development yet to go.
Yes, there is.
To keep you busy.
It will keep us busy. Yes, it will.
And is there any development or any area of development where the Met Council might be of help? Well, or how does that interact into the whole process?
Historically, we had a situation where they had, I think, greater say because the sewer and water interceptors weren't provided to the city, but a number of years ago those were provided. So they have less influence and say on where development occurs today than they used to. But certainly they still have some input. We have to, just like other cities, we have to have an approved development plan for our city. And if we're going to make changes to that development plan, we have to get approval from the Met Council for those changes. But as long as we're developing in accordance with those development plans, we can go ahead and build as it fits the city and as it fits the required zoning.
And then the other part of development that is going on in Maple Grove now is with multifamily residential development?
Yes, we're seeing a significant increase or a significant amount of new housing coming in.
And you're doing some apartment building. Roughly how many apartments, how much does apartments make up of your city?
Well, I don't think it makes up a huge proportion
Okay.
of the city, but we are seeing right now 2 developments that are being completed and a third one that's on the boards to come forward that are significant size, apartment units for the city.
Yeah, one of them that you had talked with me when we talked before the show is kind of in the Arbor Lake Hemlock area.
Right.
That there's, I think it's called The Sky.
It's called The Sky.
Tell us about it.
It's a beautiful market rent apartment complex. It's located right off of where our new town green will be located, but it's a very nice apartment complex setup. They have an internal parking system, so they have a parking ramp that's internal to the apartment building itself. So if you're on the 4th floor of this apartment complex, you will park on the 4th floor and go right in the door to where your apartment's located. So
that's a little different
it's very nice.
Yeah.
They've completed their first phase and they're building their second phase, and so there's been a lot of huge demand for it, and so they're very happy, and it's been very successful for them.
And how many units will it have?
If I recall right, it's in the area of 250 units.
Oh, that's a large development.
So, yeah.
And then I think there's some transitional senior housing that's going in. That's kind of in the same general area?
It's in the same general area.
Right.
All 3 projects are really in the same general area. This project is located sort of up off of Main Street, across the street from Lifetime Fitness.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a larger development for senior housing, sort of the over 55 community that really contains a number of aspects of transitional housing. So you have, from your sort of typical apartment living to, partial assisted living to memory care itself. So you can get, dinners and lunches that way that you buy, and so it's a very beautiful facility, and that will be opening up here in the fall.
Yeah, I was just to say that's under construction right now,
Yes,
right?
and they move very quickly forward, so I expect to be opened up in September.
And then tell us, in kind of the area, kind of east of Hemlock, that would be coming the gravel pit area, right?
Yes, it's in the gravel pit area.
That there's another high-density housing project.
Right, and I think
that's under just in the planning stage?
Yes, it is. I think that one was actually in the paper, the Star Tribune today.
Right.
Kelly Dorn and his companies have purchased or are in the process of purchasing a piece of land that's located sort of on the corner of Hemlock Lane and Elm Creek Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
And that northeast corner, and really on the north end of that property, it's guided for high-density housing, and so I think he'll be bringing forward a high-density housing project located on that site in that location.
And that'll meet a lot of current people's needs.
Right, and that site, the way it's zoned right now, and I think if I did the math right, there's the availability for several hundred units of high density in that location.
Yeah, so over a period of a couple of years, you'll have many, many units of.
Yeah, I mean, over a period of about 3 years, we'll probably open up about 1,000 units in that location.
And that's one of the directions they see people going, renting maybe more than buying for a certain group of our society.
Yeah, and I think that it also conforms with really our long-term plan for the downtown area that we've had in place for nearly 20 years, where what we envisioned was some higher density housing in the downtown Maple Grove area, more of a walkable community. It sort of corresponds to the retail and the restaurants that we have there, so it should work out very well.
Right, so it's all kind of coming together.
The plan is coming together.
Which is good, which is always good. Now we'll move on to a topic that I'm sure all city councils are kind of looking at, is the matter of security after that shooting at New Hope, that all of the cities are kind of re-looking at that area. And Currently, what does Maple Grove do in terms of security during council meetings?
Well, currently, we have some measures put in place, but I think that one that's obvious to most people is we have a police officer who's in the council chambers during the meeting, and so he or she is there and available, and obviously observes the meeting and figures out what's going on. So that that's what the one main obvious security measure that we have in place.
And then I think you had said that was because of some past incidents that, not like New Hope's, but ones that concerned people.
We had an incident several years ago where I think it brought to mind the fact that we ought to have a police officer at every city council meeting, because some things happened at the meeting that an individual got out of control.
Right.
And I think it brought to mind the realization that there are occasions where it would be good to have an officer right there.
Oh, right.
And so we did change our policy back several years ago.
So what do you think the city needs to consider when they start bringing this subject up? What are kind of the points to look at?
Well, I think it's sort of a competing set of issues.
Okay.
I mean, you have security for the council and security for the residents who are there at the meeting. You want to make sure they're safe. But you also want to make sure that the meeting's fully open to the public. Obviously, city council meetings at this level are the most open government we have.
They are.
People, if they want to talk or express a concern to the city council, they show up.
Right.
They just come and show up, and they get to a chance to talk. So I don't think we want to change that.
Right.
And so, I don't know what additional measures we will take, but I don't think we want to put in place anything that's going to limit the public's ability to come and speak at meetings or participate in meetings. I know I heard someone talk about, we could put some type of barriers in place so they could come up and talk, but we'd be behind the barriers. And I just don't think that that's a good option. I think that we have to realize that, as much as we hate to say it, there are some risks involved, but hopefully they aren't real, and we have to keep the meetings open for the public to see and hear and participate, and we'll take other security measures that hopefully will make it very safe for people to show up and continue to participate.
Well, and Minnesota has fairly strong open meeting laws, right?
We have a very strong open meeting law, and we have a very strong history of open participation, especially when it comes to local government.
Right.
And so I don't think people want to change that.
And have you heard concerns from your residents about this issue?
I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I mean, certainly it's been a topic of conversation for people that see me, and we talk about what happened at New Hope and what does the city think and what are we going to do. And I think that it's certainly something that has come to people's attention because of what happened in New Hope. And obviously, as unfortunate as that circumstance was, it was very fortunate in a lot of ways in the result.
Oh, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse. So at this point, it'll be like an agenda item on your some future council meeting?
Actually, on Monday night this week, we had a discussion at the end of our meeting about security issues, and we didn't go into, I don't think, in depth as to what additional things we've talked about doing, because I think we want to keep those to ourselves.
Right.
But we'll make some additional changes.
And I'm sure a lot of other cities are doing the same kind of thing right now.
I would think most, if not all, the other cities are doing great.
Yeah, and it's a real balance. It's a balancing act, like you said. How do you keep people the safest, yet allow everybody to speak?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Definitely.
There'll be a lot of changes, but over the next, I think, several months for a lot of city councils around town.
Right. Last year, at the legislature, Maple Grove was dealing with tax increment financing issues related to the gravel area that we talked about earlier when we were talking about industrial development. Now, what was part of that? What was covered in that legislation, and why did you have to go to the legislature for it?
Because of the way the tax increment financing laws work today, the area in the gravel pit didn't qualify for the city to use tax increment financing for that area. So we needed special legislation to use tax increment financing. So we went through the process. The process actually took 3-4 years for us to get the legislation passed and signed into law. We actually had it passed one year but vetoed. So it was a part of a bigger bill. But I think that what it principally allows us to do is, as a city, to recoup some of the costs that exist because it's a gravel mine area. That's the only real reason that we have it. there's additional sewer costs, there's additional water retention costs, there's additional road costs because of the way the land has been reclaimed by law, has to be reclaimed a certain way. It really does increase the costs for a lot of these different infrastructure items, and so the legislature passed an increment financing law that allowed us to recoup those costs. I think that's the right thing to do, especially in this situation where probably about 15 years ago now, or a little bit less, there were some discussions about how long the gravel pits were going to remain open. And MnDOT specifically asked us, and so did the Met Council asked us, to keep open the gravel pits as long as possible because it saves them so much money because the gravel is so close to where the roads have to be built. They save millions and millions. They save millions and millions every year. And so it was only fair that, because this is now costing us more money, we've saved you hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. You should allow us to do this so that we can recoup our costs to make it fair for the landowners as well.
Well, and I know you have a lot of experience. A lot of people might not know, what is TIF? What is tax increment financing? So if we can have just a little brief overview of exactly what is that when I see that in the newspaper.
It's a little bit complicated to explain, but I think simplistically what tax increment financing does is that it's a process whereby the development can reclaim the incremental tax increase. So if I have a valuation of bare land at $100,000 and I pay taxes of $10,000, that isn't what it is, but we can say that, and I have a new property where, because of my development, that land is now worth $1 million, and the taxes are 10 times as much. They get to capture that additional $90,000 of taxes that have been created by the new development, and instead of that money going to other functions for the property taxes, whether it's to go to schools or to the city or to the county, it really goes to the district to help pay for the designated costs of that district.
And this gets to be important in attracting businesses, right?
Right. I mean, because one of the things we have as a city is that because of the gravel pit and what's happened there, our developmental costs are higher than some other cities because of the gravel pit and the way it's been reclaimed. And this way we can tell a business, okay, you don't have to actually incur those costs. That way they get repaid to you through the property tax system. And so that's the benefit.
And then that TIF financing goes mainly to getting the ground and the land and the sewer and the water and all that ready?
That's what our TIF will do, yes. Yes.
So it doesn't get involved in building things for businesses. It gets involved in preparing it so that they can start their process.
Right, and I think it's really sort of, other people in Anna talked about it as if it's a brownfield, the old historical environmental land problems. So it's maybe not a super site, but it's a situation where the land has some significant additional development costs, and because of this allows us to recoup those additional development costs.
So this has been going on for quite a few years now, right? The tax increment financing was set up by the legislature.
This legislature was actually just passed last May.
I mean, for your particular thing, but in general?
In general, the state has allowed some forms of tax increment financing for decades.
Yeah, for a long time. So it's not like a new thing, but...
No. Actually, what they've done is they've narrowed the uses for tax increment financing over the last 5-10 years.
And then, now, we'll move up again to this particular bill. What was established for Maple Grove, the specific use of this bill?
The specific use of this bill is really for industrial and commercial properties only. So unlike a couple other TIF packages that were passed by the legislature the year before for gravel mining areas, ours does not include either retail uses or residential uses. And I think that that's appropriate because the reality is TIF should be used for the creation of new jobs. That's really the intent of TIF. You're supposed to bring in businesses for new jobs, and obviously if you're building homes, you're not bringing in new jobs. You're building homes.
So it kind of revolves around what use that land is going to be used for, right?
It will, and in our situation, the way the TIF was passed, we will have a sort of a matrix or a structure whereby, depending on what you're doing, how many jobs you're bringing to the city, how high paying jobs are these jobs. So it's a sort of a lot of different factors would determine how much in TIF you actually qualify for.
Oh, okay. So kind of looking out for the economic well-being.
Right. I mean, I don't think that the intent isn't to have one big building that's all mechanized and we have 3 jobs there.
Right.
I mean, this is really, the idea is also to try and draw and attract businesses that have a significant number of jobs.
So that once this is set up now the city can go out looking for that kind of business or respond when they get
inquiries, we can respond and say we have the perfect location for you. It's not in Texas.
We can get it all ready to go.
It's not in Texas, it's not in Colorado, it's here in Minnesota.
So this helps speed up the development of that area, do you think, or just...
It will help us be competitive in the marketplace.
Okay.
And so because of that competitiveness, it will speed up the development of the area. Yes.
Yeah. Now, how long you had mentioned something before, how long will the gravel pit thing be before it's worked its way to the end?
The gravel pit itself, I expect to probably continue in operation for another 15, 20 or more years.
So it's not something almost...
No, and then they continue to mine the land for sand and gravel, but they also have significant reclamation that they do on site. So, for instance, when a freeway is torn up or of concrete or tar, they will haul that tar or concrete back to the site here and then pulverize it and reuse it.
Right.
So,
can you name some types of businesses that would fit within this plan? Not ones that are coming, but just kind of looking forward.
I think that one of the things
to kind of personalize it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think that we would like to see is, obviously not only Maple Grove, but the northern suburbs have had a lot of medical technology firms built here over the years.
Right.
It's a perfect location for those type of businesses, whether it's, we have obviously Boston Scientific is a huge employer in Maple Grove with the expansion of that type of business, the expansion of Upshur Smith, but whether it's those type of businesses, I think really make a lot of sense in that location. So hopefully we'll see a lot of med tech type development.
And they bring good jobs.
They bring good jobs. They bring good paying jobs to the community.
Yeah, don't you think cities are paying more and more attention to bringing jobs in, that it wasn't always the goal?
I think that they are. I think they have to.
Yeah.
In today's environment, it's important that a city be aware of how it can attract good paying jobs to its community.
Part of your role, right?
It's all part of the role.
Maple Grove and Osseo have worked together on adding new gyms in the Maple Grove Junior High?
Right. So the city of Maple Grove, along with the Osseo School District, and then the Osseo Maple Grove Basketball Association, we just opened 2 weeks ago our new gym facility at Maple Grove Junior High. So that adds 3 full new courts, and that brings the junior high to having full 5 courts of basketball.
Wow.
It's a beautiful new facility. And the Osseo Maple Grove Basketball Association contributed and will contribute significant funds, well over $1 million for this facility. And it really brings a lot of great new opportunities to the city for our students and our children, for basketball and other sports, and also for our seniors for their pickleball.
Oh, right. Yeah, the whole range.
The whole range. So we have 9, it's set up for 9 pickleball courts in the new gym. So, during the day, they get to play pickleball, and the kids play basketball at night and on the weekends, and it's a great new facility. And
now, where is a Maple Grove Junior High?
Sure. It is right off of Hemlock Avenue, south of 694 by about 3/4 of a mile. It's right across sort of from Cedar Island Elementary School. So it's sort of a centrally located area for the Osseo Maple Grove Basketball Association, and also sort of for the Osseo High School.
And now that gets to be a joint venture kind of thing. So you have to there's certain ways that that gets to be carried out?
Yes, we have a joint powers agreement
Okay.
with the school district that describes who has what responsibilities for what items, but it's a way that we have found to be very successful for us to provide our sort of park and recreational activities. We try to conjoin them with a school so that together we develop the parks, together we develop these type of recreational facilities so that the school district can benefit from them during the day and the citizens can benefit from them on the weekends or the summer or at night.
Right. So it's a good example of the city and the school district cooperating together.
Right. We found it to be a great way for us to really use our joint resources and not spend as much money.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if we both did it separately, it'd be twice as expensive. And this way, we save a lot of tax dollars, and yet we provide great facilities.
And you probably end up with more in the long run than you would each individually.
Absolutely, because individually we would never build this type of facility, but together we can.
And how long did it take for the construction? Because it's completed now, right?
It's completed. Okay. We actually started construction really after school was out last summer, so it was a rather quick construction period.
That was pretty fast.
Yeah, so probably 8 months altogether.
And then both the city and the school district are part of the funding part, as well as the running of it part.
Yes, I mean the school district really runs it. Really, what it was for funding is the funding really was a combination of the city and the Awesome Maple Grove Basketball Association.
Okay.
And that was really the principal funding, and then the ongoing obligations really fall to the school district and the Basketball Association.
And then you said this will enable the Osseo district to sponsor more tournaments, right?
Yes. So I mean, what it really does is that a good example is in May, as I understand it, they'll be having a very large national AAU basketball tournament there. And so throughout the summer, they'll have various tournaments there where they can bring in teams from around the state and the country to play there. And, it gives great exposure to our student athletes who then have a better chance to compete at the highest levels. And, it really makes for a great environment for our citizens and our children to play.
Are there many other school districts that have that many gyms?
No.
I was going to say, not that I know of.
No, I think the only one that has something really sort of similar is Hopkins, where they have a 5-gym facility.
Okay.
It's somewhat similar, but I don't think anybody else really does.
So kind of a new benefit in a sense for the whole area, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time and helping our audience learn more about what's happening in Maple Grove. And we'll encourage you to tune in next week for part 2 of Maple Grove's issues. And take the time, if any of the things that we talked about tonight resonated with you, take the time to contact Mayor Steffenson, because we put his email and phone number up, or your city councils and your mayors too, if it's a different city. We're glad you've been with us, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Bye.